I had a lot of Tea Party support in my district.
Our friends in the Tea Party are patriots.
I had a lot of support from Tea Party members because a lot of the things I was saying they agreed with.
Those are part of your class of 2010, and the talk of the town is flavored of tea.
Your Tea Party edition of Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABC News Top Line. I'm Rick Klein.
And I'm Jonathan Carl.
Every day at noon Eastern, we're right here bringing you the latest in politics, everything you need to know. A busy week this week. John Carl, let us know what is going on. You've got freshmen. I've seen freshmen walking around behind you there.
This is T-Town. The largest freshman class in a generation has descended on Washington, including House and Senate. You've got 109 new members of Congress. The amazing stat here, Rick, is that fully 40% of these have never served in elected office before. This is your citizen legislators coming and invading Washington. We'll see what they're going to do. One thing I can tell you, talking to many of them so far, is they are determined to change this place. Sound familiar?
That's right. And orientation, of course, tells them this week how they're supposed to operate as members of Congress. They have very different ideas about how you're supposed to operate in Congress. It is going to be an interesting series of growing pains as they adjust to the new Republican majority coming in January. Next up today, the $1 million man, Charlie Rangel, the former chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, has had his long-awaited ethics trial start today, although he delivered an impassioned plea for it to be delayed. Take a look at some of what Charlie Rangel had to say.
50 years of public service is on the line. I truly believe that I'm not being treated fairly and that history will dictate that, notwithstanding the political calendar, I am entitled to a lawyer during this proceeding.
And Mr. Rangel was going to serve as his own attorney, but then he walked out, and now there is no one representing his side as that ethics trial continues throughout the day. Today, it doesn't look good for Charlie Rangel, John.
And Rick, the basic thing that's going on here is he is saying that he has not had time to set up a legal defense fund. And until he can, and until he can raise that $1 million to hire a legal team to defend himself, this trial should not go forward. I just say to you, Rick, if you get in trouble, get before the judge. That argument doesn't always fly. You know, just wait. I can't go on trial until I set up that legal defense fund. But, you know, it's worth a try. Meanwhile, this trial is going on right now without Charlie Rangel. Next up, the new 2011. This now reported in New York Times, Washington Post, both reporting that the administration is putting forward a new deadline for Afghanistan. You remember the July 2011 deadline when withdrawal would begin. This deadline now would be for the end of combat operations by U.S. troops in Afghanistan, the withdrawal of combat troops, although not necessarily all troops, by December 31st, 2014, a plan that will be presented before NATO later this month. Rick, one thing you can say is that you got this new deadline now. Just now are we seeing the full impact of the surge troops that President Obama has sent to Afghanistan. Really just now are you seeing us at the full combat level. And keep in mind, this president has tripled the number of U.S. combat forces in Afghanistan.
Well, and this may be one of the few areas where a Republican Congress will give the president an easier time than the Democratic one, probably a little more wiggle room when it comes to deadlines and transitions on the military front from the Republicans in the House. And finally today, Pelosi's pest. Heath Shuler, the conservative Democratic congressman from North Carolina, has said that he is running for the post of minority leader against Nancy Pelosi, except he recognizes that he actually doesn't have the votes, which makes for an intriguing and interesting challenge to the now House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. But it does give at least moderates a chance to vote for someone other than Pelosi. They can go back and say, at least I didn't support her again going on as Democratic leader.
Right, it'll give moderates a chance, and Rick, as you well know, there aren't many of them left. So Shuler doesn't exactly have a groundswell here. But now we are joined not by a freshman, not by a card-carrying member of the Tea Party, but by a key Republican member of Congress, Greg Walden of the great state of Oregon, the 2nd District, and also is leading the transition effort here for the new Republican majority. So I want to start right with Rangel. Much of what we know about Rangel and his transgressions came from the Office of Congressional Ethics, which was set up by Nancy Pelosi. Are you, is the new Republican majority, going to keep the Office of Congressional Ethics?
You know, our focus on the transition is looking at other things that are much more important, and that is how the House operates, how to open it up. But we're not focused in on the ethics side of things at all.
Isn't that important? I mean, that was a big part about cleaning house here, and this Pelosi sees as one of her really key achievements.
Yeah, and that's why we're not. It's not an issue we're focusing in at the transition team.
You're not planning on doing away with that office.
We're not working on that issue at all.
Okay.
Congressman, I want to ask you about some of the major themes that you talked about in terms of changing the way that it operates. What are people going to recognize most about being different about the way that the House operates under Republican leadership?
You know, Rick, a couple of things. First of all, that the bills will actually be available to the press. What a concept. To the public, people who are paying the bill, and to members of Congress at least 72 hours in advance. You know, it got so out of control in the last year where nobody had a chance to look at the legislation before they were called on to vote on it. And I think that's part of the rebellion that swept across the country. They saw inside, and all of a sudden process really mattered to Americans. So they'll be online. We're also looking at how can you involve additional technology so that our hearings could be up for everybody to watch, perhaps through streaming. And so, I mean, there are lots of things you're going to see, all of which is designed to open up the process, make Congress more transparent and accountable so we can get to better policy to deal with how you reduce wasteful Washington spending and try and get on job one, which is creating jobs.
Now, you guys complained constantly that the Democrats weren't giving you a chance to even get votes on your measures. Are you truly, can you commit, going to make it possible for the Democratic minority to be able to have votes on their amendments, on their alternatives?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this has been building over a number of Congresses, and by both parties, frankly, over time, where more and more members were shut out further and further along, to the point that it hit its zenith this year when not a single bill came to the House floor under an open rule. Not one. That's never happened in the history of the House. So it can only get better from here. Rank and file members of both parties have had it, and what you're going to see is that reflected in the rules changes as we go forward. We're just starting our process. We're going to let this transition be a place where people of all parties, including the staff, by the way, can weigh in and try and clean up how this place operates and open it up so we can get back to being, as Leader Boehner says, more than just voters. We can actually be legislators.
As John mentioned, this is a freshman class arriving that's unlike anything we've seen before. What specifically are you doing to ensure their participation and to ensure their buy-in as Congress moves forward under Republican leadership? Yeah,
a couple of things, at least from the transition side. So the transition committee itself has 4 freshman members who are active participants as transition team members. Second, we will have a series of work sessions, open meetings, where anybody from the conference, the new members, existing members, can come and really have meaningful input. We are sending out a survey to every single member of Congress, new and old, every chief of staff, every office manager, to solicit from everybody, Republican and Democrat, how would you fix the things that you don't like here? What could we do going forward? What would make this place better, more efficient, transparent, and open? And so we're inviting this energy. This place needs a full vacuuming. I mean, it needs to be cleaned out. They bring the energy and the enthusiasm of the American people to change it, as Jonathan said. They're here with a lot of energy, and they're going to get to use that energy to help us change this whole process.
And what does it mean that you have so many that have never held elected office?
It's great. It's great.
How so?
It's a wonderful thing because they bring what you're going to find is an incredible depth of real world experience, absent politics. These are people who have owned their own companies. They're people who have deep medical backgrounds, ophthalmologist, cardio, surgeon. I mean, people who have served in our armed forces who just for one reason or another in the last year said, I don't like what's happening in Washington. I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to run for office. And so I think that is the greatest thing about democracy is people in America can do that. They didn't have to be a city councilor or a state legislator before they got here. They just had to have the power of an idea. And what they're bringing, I think, is going to be revolutionary in a positive way for the country.
A little bit more of a challenge for leadership, though, you think? A little bit more of a challenge for leadership to control these guys? I mean,
this isn't about controlling them. Actually, remember, here, I was at the dinner last night that future Speaker Boehner hosted. And the exciting thing was, having been deputy chairman at the NRCC, the campaign arm, we all actually know them better than they know themselves. Because John Boehner, Eric Cantor, Kevin McCarthy, Pete Sessions, myself, we were all out helping elect these people. We helped raise the money for them. We went out and campaigned in their districts with them. We helped recruit them. The notion that we don't know who these people are is really kind of humorous on the inside. They're part of our team. We're part of their team. We're one team that's going to move this country in a new direction.
All right, Congressman Greg Walden, really appreciate you being with us
Hey,
as
enjoyed it.
you deal with the transitions.
Thank you.